Okay, I have 7 o'clock, so I will call the meeting.
Go for it,
to
Mark.
order. And according to Dawn, we have no one from the public other than Monty, so there will be no public comments tonight.
Monty, can I just have your last name?
Whaley, Whaley.
Thank you.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve the minutes from our January 25th meeting, please?
Mark?
Kathy, okay.
There was a couple of things that were typos that need to probably be corrected.
All right, you want to put those into the record?
Okay, yes. It's in the City Council Liaison Report, item 5. It reads, connecting the two feasibility students in the post. It should be studies. And under old business, part B, discussion of the Mosher and Empson funds, in point I or point 1, there's a phrase in parentheses. It says, although not all if available. I think that should be is.
Is correct.
Yeah. And then in item 4, where we did the motion to put together a subcommittee, do we need to list the names of the people on the committee? There's no names in there, and I was just wondering.
I don't think there actually is a subcommittee yet.
Okay.
Well, it was a subcommittee. It was a subcommittee of one.
And that member has not been doing a good job.
Well, we can talk through that when that agenda item.
That would be my only question, if we need to list the name, or if we don't need to, then it's fine.
I'd leave it nameless at this point. That would be my recommendation.
Okay. Those were the only corrections I had.
Does anybody else have any other corrections? Do we have a motion to approve as amended?
I move that we approve the minutes as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Approved. Okay, Nancy, you have the floor reports from the director's office.
All right. Well, director's actually back in her office, so I'm not sitting in the middle of the upstairs behind a pillar anymore. So we are making some progress. Our construction / carpet project continues. It's still pretty chaotic in the library. I think I've moved more furniture in the last month than I've moved in my entire life. So we are moving things back and forth to accommodate both the floor repairs of all the cracks, and then taking, basically it's the process of going into an area, removing all the furniture, removing all the carpet, seeing what damage there may or may not be underneath the carpet, doing all the repairs, and then moving everything back the other direction. So in the meantime, depending on what area we're working on, we are relocating staff to different parts of the library, upstairs, other areas, etc. And we're almost running out of places to put things because we keep trying to put things out of the way. But good progress. The staff areas downstairs will be pretty much repaired and completed by the end of this week. So we are moving some stuff back in. We continue to find some cracks in the floor. This was all part of, a project that was forecast, several years ago. And we did know that we would find, or there was a distinct possibility that we would find cracks in the library building because of the cracks that were found in the Civic Center and some other buildings built similar vintage. And we have 4 or 5 different foundations in our building, and one of them is part of the old library structure from the 70s. So we seem to be getting most of the problems where one foundation abuts another. So that and the Colorado weather, the rapid changes in temperature, this happens in the Chicago area too. You have a lot of rapid expansion and contractions in the building. So we did end up with far more cracks in the newer part of the building and also more severe cracks than earlier expected, but they're all being addressed. We have, most days we have our whole library curbside crew, plus the rest of us that are already in the building, plus a crew of movers, plus a crew of carpet folks, plus a construction crew, sometimes two. So it is pretty noisy and crowded in the building, but staff's doing an amazing job of working around it. We have everything from the back and the front. We today had to turn the circulation desk folks and around and stick them on the other side of the desk so we could handle the area behind the desk, and we just kind of move things around and go about our business. So can't tell you exactly how long this is going to take. It depends on what not we, but the construction folks who know what they're doing, find as they go along. We hope to be reopened by summertime. So construction still continues. So in the meantime, we are still doing approximately 1 curbside delivery per minute of all the times we were open. So we are hard at work with books and materials, delivering tax forms via curbside, printouts. Our seed library has gone virtual this year. So we are delivering packets of seeds that you can order what ones you want online and pick them up. There's a lot of folks that are hopeful for spring because a lot of seeds are just flying off of our shelf. Right now, we still have the pick a topic bags where people can call in or sign up online to request a bag full of materials on a specific topic. We are still doing the take-home craft kits for kids and teens every week. Just wound up submissions for our 7th annual Peeps diorama contest. So those are always fun to see. We have to do it online this time. We don't have all the sugar in the lobby, but that's going well. We have an Authors We Love evening. That's the author event that we normally have at the museum. In this case, it will be virtual, but it's with Jamie Ford on the 31st. Jamie Ford is the author of the best-selling Hotel on the Corner of Bitter and Sweet and a couple other novels. He's a New York Times best-selling author. Let's see, I think we're on our 4th Book Chatter podcast. So our adult services staff have been busy doing podcasts. We're still doing the Hablemos Let's Talk Spanish conversation program a couple times a week, 3 or 4 story times during the week, teen writers group, spring break book clubs. So there's a lot going on. It's just not going on in the library yet. So we are keeping busy. Our hotspots are still going out like crazy. The other day, it was the fewest I'd seen on the shelf. I think we had 4 out of our 89 Wi-Fi hotspots available. So they are going out, especially around the snowstorm time. We look like we had a rush of folks checking them out in case their internet service happened to go out. So those are doing really well. Our Text to Librarian new program is going well too. We're receiving lots of text requests from patrons and lots of text questions. And let's see, we should have all those Chromebooks that we got from the CARES Act funding available pretty soon for checkout as well. So little chaotic in the library, stepping around construction and movers materials, but we're all doing well.
So any questions for Nancy on her report? I had a couple, Nancy.
Okay.
With respect to the repairs and that, when you get done with the repairs, will you be structurally sound?
We are, our building is not unsound now. It has areas that need repair so that the building will last for a long time. So the goal here is to do the type of repairs that will make the building sound for another 50 years. So they're doing a really thorough job of making sure that everything is going to last a lot longer. And I learned lots about different types of repairs throughout this process. So yes, the building will be in good shape.
And are the repairs, are the repairs coming from your budget, the monies for the repair?
No, the repairs are coming from two bond measures, one in 2015 and one in 2018. There was money set aside for library infrastructure repairs. So
So that was accelerated, so to speak?
not really. I mean, it's just, you know, they knew from my knowledge anyway, you know, it was get the Civic Center done first. And that seemed to be the area which was probably in the most dire need of repairs, and then move on to the library. And then my understanding is that after the library, there will be some similar inspections and repairs done at the Safety and Justice Center, and I think the Rec Center as well. So it's just, yeah, this is not unusual in cities to really put a concerted effort toward looking after the infrastructure of their buildings. So that's what this is.
Okay, well, I remember the bond issue. For some reason, I thought that the library there were a number of beneficiaries of that bond initiative.
There were.
And the library was, at that time, did not grade out as one of the earlier beneficiaries. It's great that you got it, so.
I haven't looked too much at the 2015, but definitely, I have definitely seen that, you know, there was money dedicated to library infrastructure repairs in the 2018.
I agree. Okay, anything else, Nancy?
No, like I said, we're just kind of swamped with business, which is good. Our patrons are awesome. We did receive quite a bit of correspondence from our patrons on the 1-year anniversary of our closing. And of COVID's arrival, we've had lots of really nice thank you notes and a little bit of chocolate coming in from patrons who have appreciated our services over the year. So that's been really nice. We miss our patrons.
I know they miss you too. Okay, with that, I'll move on to the next bullet, the Friends of the Library report. Kathy, do you have something for us there?
Yes, I do. Excuse me. Since we did not meet last month, I'm reporting for both January and February. The Friends of the Board meet via Zoom, and in January, they moved to subscribe to Wild Apricot for 1 year. This is a program that will help them manage their membership donors. I think you can create a website with it, and it also provides an online store. So they're giving it a try for 1 year. The bookshop sales for December were $73.80, and there were no sales in January. Online sales for December and January totaled $1,404.35. The gift shop sales for December were $498.56. Obviously, some people did some Christmas shopping. There were no sales in January. They also started selling to a company called Dream World Books, and the sales for December and January totaled $417.23. The Dream World Books it's a new company they've contracted with who buys books that the Friends consider not sellable. Treasurer Lynn Newberry reported they raised about $5,000 on Colorado Gives Day, which is the most they have ever raised. They also received some additional donations before the end of the year for a total of $6,100.59. So they had a good end of the year donation. The Friends Board, it was brought to them a request about helping with the little free libraries, and they are willing to assist us in keeping them stocked with the books at whatever location is chosen by the library staff or by the library advisory board that will be serving underserved populations. All we need to do is, once we've identified the locations, is let the Friends Board know, and they will recruit the volunteers necessary to keep them stocked. So they've agreed.
Will we have to erect the little libraries for them, or will they do that?
We didn't discuss erecting a library. It sounded like it would be more of using what we already have, or like a space. If we were to do it, say, for example, with Salud Clinic, it might be just a bookshelf that's already there in the waiting room. So something like that. All the members of Friends are required to renew at the end of December. Renewed membership is currently at 144, and the committee is going to continue to follow up with the 357 remaining members that need to renew. The library had some funding requests at both meetings. In January, there was one request for $1,080, which was renewing the 9 hotspots that are part of the Library of Things for checkout. This was approved. In February, there were 3 requests. Donald Prowitz, did I say his name right? Okay. Asked for funds to provide a G Suite account with the Chrome Enterprise solution for the 30 Chromebooks. Essentially, the library will partner with the Friends to create a Google Workspace, a G Suite account for nonprofits using the Friends nonprofit ID, which will be at no cost. The cost that for the money that was requested is to pay for the one-time purchase of the Chrome Enterprise solution at $900. This will cover all of the Chromebooks. The board approved this request. Penny Burris from Adult Services and the Longmont Museum are pursuing a grant to digitize some of the Longmont newspapers. The
They
grant,
did receive that, Kathy.
what?
They just found out they did receive that grant.
Oh, good. The grant requires a 25% match from the institution. The maximum amount of the grant is $3,000. So the board approved the matching funding of up to $750. There was also a request for expanding the Library of Things, but the Friends board deferred that to the next meeting in March. The board selected a nominating committee. It's getting to that time of the year for them. It's Sharon McCaffrey and Conrad Newton, and they will identify a 3rd member. They will begin finding and interviewing board candidates for the 2 board positions that are open for next year. And the next meeting is this Wednesday on March 24th.
Questions for Kathy? Can I circle back on the little libraries? Because I'm not sure how we stand in this. So the libraries that we erected that were vandalized, what do we do with those? Do we move on? Do we try and re-erect them? Do we look for different locations?
Mark, one of them has been removed entirely from the park so it doesn't exist at all. And the other one was pretty much smashed beyond repair.
I understand. So are we writing them off then?
I think in those locations at least, but I think that there are multiple spots where we could put something like we talked about earlier, inside of a location, whether it's Salud, the Hour Center, housing authority sites, et cetera, where there are bookshelves within those centers that would be still be a little free library, but not necessarily the cute one on the stick that sticks in the park.
Okay, so how do those get identified? How do they come to us, or do we do that?
We have to contact the organizations, obviously, and set up a schedule for taking materials to those locations, and then I would assume that we would provide signage for those bookshelves or shelving units that say that they are a little free library and that they are provided by whoever they're provided by, Friends of the Library, Library Board, et cetera.
Well, okay, but so do we do that as the board? Do they do that as their board, or do you do that as the library?
We don't tend to do it as a library, but that was a discussion with this board before of looking to see if the Friends had interest in taking over that task of supplying those libraries, and they said that they did.
No, well, yeah, I understand that, and I'm okay, and I think that's great that they'll do that. Mm-hmm. But then if we're not going back to where we were, which is understandable, from a process standpoint, this is just a question to the board. How do we want to work to create those new locations in the community? Does that make sense? what's the process that makes that happen? I wish I could show your looks back to you, because
I think that's, that's something, it's just what Kathy said, that the Friends discussed it, and they said, we can suggest locations for them, or, the library can certainly do the footwork if we need to find those locations, and then they will be in charge of gathering materials and going to stock them.
Has anyone approached, any of those organizations approached you or anyone at the library to say?
I have taken some materials over myself to one of the housing authority sites before, but they seemed interested in more of, at least at that point, in more of a one-time donation of materials, not on a rotating basis. I believe, I'll have to check on this though, because I believe one of our staff members has talked to Salud, so I will check with her and see what kind of conversations she's had. And then someone else suggested potentially the Our Center, and we have not talked to them yet.
okay, I thought there was an organization within the city government that was sensitive to those communities that could recommend locations. Am I wrong?
Well, there were that's community services, of which we are a part, and those are some of the locations that were recommended. So, and there may be others as well.
I'm okay with all that. I'm just more into the process here as to how it gets done, and how our board can facilitate that process to make sure that the Friends Board has the information they need to get the books out into the community.
Why don't I pose the question on Wednesday, which is the next Friends meeting, and see whether they want to have this board do any of the groundwork on this, or whether they'd like to just take over and run with it.
That's great. That would be great.
I will do that.
Then I had a second question as I listened to you talk, Kathy. What's the financial wherewithal of the Friends nowadays? Because with the virus, they must have taken a financial hit.
Yeah, their income, and when the budget was prepared for this fiscal year, because their fiscal year, correct me, Katie, if I'm wrong, isn't it May or April to May?
Yeah.
Okay. So they've already gone through this year of the pandemic, and when Lynn did the budget for it, she was prepared for them not to have any book sales. So she pared the budget down, but she assured the organization that they have money in CDs or special investment accounts that she says there is plenty of money to give to the library. There is not an issue there. We can't do it for many years, but so they're just looking for this initial time with the pandemic and not being able to do a book sale, that they will still be able to fund the library. And then once things open back up and they can do book sales again, then they'll have the money coming back in. So
that's great. That's great. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions on the Friends? Councilman Waters?
Mark?
Yes.
Welcome back to Longmont.
Thank you. It's great being back.
Yeah, when did you get back?
24th.
So you've been back for a while.
Couple days after the last board meeting.
Yeah.
I had a tan at that time. I don't have it.
From Florida to the big snows.
The night that we came back, there was 5 inches.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we've done better than that since then.
Yeah. All right, real quick. Nancy, as she gave her report earlier in this meeting, was kind of the featured program last week at NGLA. And you should know that you would have been real proud of Nancy if you
always
logged into that meeting and had a chance to hear her presentation and feel the number and the nature of the questions that she got. I can guarantee you there's a lot of interest in getting the library, having access to the library. And she handled those questions well. I was proud of her, and I know you would have been as well. Unrelated to this agenda, but related to Nancy's contributions, she also last week participated in a program, The Future We Deserve, which is aired on Longmont Public Media's website, YouTube, Channel 8. Nancy, along with a couple of others who are seriously involved in creating and managing public, common or public good, right, assets. She was part of that conversation because of her role as the director of the library, and the library being one of the great public goods in this and in every community. So if you haven't watched it, you ought to go to the Longmont Public Media, go to YouTube, the Longmont Public Media channel, and do a search for The Future We Deserve, episode number 5. And it was a fun conversation. Nancy was a serious contributor. I have, beyond that, in terms of things the council is, topics or issues the council's working on, I have a list of 7 that I can rattle off that may be interesting to you. Probably the one on the list that would be of most interest is the fact that on April 6th, we have a study session. And in that study session, we're going to get a report on the Performing Arts and Conference Center feasibility study. And I know you have an interest in it for a whole bunch of reasons, but it might be good just to listen in to see how that one goes, how it gets teed up, the kinds of what gets highlighted, kind of questions that get asked, in anticipation of what we know will be coming in the relatively near future. I'm not certain when, but there'll be obviously a presentation to the council when you get the library feasibility study, and probably a good way to make some notes and decide what worked and what didn't, and how would you improve on what we'll hear on April 6th. So
Great.
beyond that, I can, if you care about auxiliary dwelling units or electric vehicle charging stations or the equitable carbon-free roadmap or the Urban Land Institute and what they're doing with their planning efforts in Southeast Longmont, or the annexation of McIntosh Lake, all topics that are kind of coming up that are more than just kind of perfunctory. And I'm happy to spend as much time as you want on any of those, but I'm guessing you don't want me to spend time on any of those.
Well, I think everybody has a voice here, Nancy.
Oh, Tim, did I hear that there was going to be some kind of charge in the future for the electric charging station, some kind of fee?
Yeah, the item on April 13th.
Because we have one in our library garage, so.
Yes, I know. On April 13th, this item is on the April 13th agenda.
Okay.
And it's basically an update. Number one, it's an update on increased use. So what's been the trend in terms of use of the 5 charging stations that the city provides.
Mm-hmm.
And the follow-on to that is, given the increased level of use, other municipalities do charge to use the charging stations. We haven't, as we've tried to make it easy for people, and obviously at no cost, no charge for people to use. But the level of use is now such that at least what's going to be presented is a question about whether or not it's time to start charging for use of the EV charging stations. So we'll see where it ends up, but that's the question, and I'm certain we'll get data on the benefits, the costs and benefits of switching from a free resource to one for which people are charged.
Anybody else for our councilman liaison? I'd love to hear about McIntosh Lake, but it's not a library issue, so
It's not.
I'll push on. But I did have a question that came to mind from rereading January's notes, and it's more like planting a seed kind of thing for these economic development meetings that come about from time to time. But there was an item that you had talked about last time, the private investment group looking at in opportunity zones.
Yeah.
And one of the concepts that was kicked around either by the community group that was involved with the library or with the board through Nancy, because I think this was a strategy that they used in Finland with their library, but they had a retail floor underneath the library, and then they had the library on top of it, and then I think they had a maker space in there as well. And if we get into this wrestling match on financial support for the library and how we can best see that it does well in the future, maybe that's something that an investment group might be interested in trying to piggyback on, to say, hey, you know, we'll put up whatever we're going to put up, but maybe we would benefit by having a library on site or something like that. And with the retail shops underneath, that helps pay for the upkeep of the library and takes some of the burden off the city. So it's just, you know, I'm just trying to plant a seed for
Sure.
something that might make sense down the road.
Well, Mark, I'll say again, I think we need to be very thoughtful and strategic about bringing together the Friends of the Library, the Library Advisory Board, Friends of the Library, those in town who care about the library and it's our investment in the library. So it becomes not, it doesn't only meet standards, right? But we would be best in class, or we would exceed average, right? I just think there is a potential to bring together what comes out of this feasibility study and what's coming with the Performing Arts Conference Center feasibility study. Especially as you think about the opportunity zone and where people might be interested in making investments. I just think there's it may be too complicated or complex to put together what I think at least ought to be a consideration. And what you're talking about right now ought to be in that conversation. I just think there's some pretty exciting possibilities for a pretty grand proposal to the community. And whether or not anybody will be interested in what I think about it is, you know, irrelevant to what you would think about it or what others might think about it. But this opportunity will only come along in our lifetimes once, I think, where you have this feasibility study, the Performing Arts Conference feasibility study, Conference Center feasibility study, the work that was done on the STEAM initiative, an opportunity zone, and an aspiration to do something bold, big and bold, coming out of a pandemic that kind of sets the mark for the recovery of this community, that differentiates it from other communities. I just think it's going to be a pretty interesting, exciting opportunity for us, and we really ought to be up to it when the time.
I think that perspective is right, and I don't want to get ahead of Nancy on this because she's going to talk about the feasibility studies, but you know, there's thoughts on a district and there's thoughts on some sort of hybrid model. And I don't know which one of those is going to carry the day, or whether it's, you know, the library is going to stay as part of the city. But I mean, if you've got a third party that's also interested in seeing that happen, now you've got some additional, you know, wind at your back to you know, create the momentum to make those sorts of things happen. So
yeah, and I'm thinking about ways to put more wind at our back. Yeah.
Okay, that's all I had. If we're okay, we can move on, and we'll look at the feasibility study update, Nancy.
Okay, we've made some progress since last time. We did finalize and issue an RFQ, a request for quotes. It didn't have to be an RFP because it's under that $50,000 amount. We did receive 3 responses to our RFP. All look pretty good to me so far. We have a committee of folks that will be interviewing. The hardest part has been, we have 12 people that I'm really interested in, that they talk to these folks, and trying to get 12 people's schedules together has, especially during spring break time, has been fun. So it looks like we probably will be delaying that until until April 7th. I will be sending out another schedule to folks who are involved in the interviews. We have 3 different proposals. One is from a local company which is actually an owner's rep. For those of you who don't know, the owner's reps are usually thought of as kind of the go-between an architect and a construction firm. But these folks are out of Fort Collins, and they have done a lot of these projects, these similar projects with other libraries in the area. They've worked with Loveland, they work with municipalities. They're working currently with Fort Collins. So they have a little interest, they have interesting ideas about spaces. So that's, I would say that may be one of their specialties, is thinking outside the box about joint use spaces and different kinds of spaces that libraries can occupy in a community. One is from a consulting firm that I have worked with before, that's out of Washington. And I would say that their specialty is financial modeling. So looking at different ways, creative hybrids, like you were kind of talking about, Mark, of different ways from outside financing, from inside financing, different ways to establish level of service. All the respondents, start with establishing level of service standards, which means, what is the norm, which a lot of that was provided by our first consultant group, gathering that data and seeing what is the norm in funding for libraries across the state and across the country, and then comparing our inputs and outputs to those norms and seeing, where are we at a low level, a median level, or an optimal level. So I would say the second consultant's field of expertise looks like, what type of programs and services that your community desires, and then putting a cost to them and talking about different funding models and how those work to accomplish the funding that you need to make your goals possible. And I think Tim and I talked about this, and whoever wants to get up and say, I really want to someday achieve a median level of funding, and you really want something that's more aspirational than that, I hope, for your community. And the third proposal is by a library strategies company that's out of the Minneapolis area, and they have kind of a fascinating history, which I won't go into now. We'll go into that more when we interview them, but they are kind of an offshoot originally of their Friends of the Library organization, but now they employ consultants that have different fields of expertise from libraries across the country. And they seem to have a really unique approach to this kind of issue as well. So I don't know if Mark is going to be in on this. I don't know if he's had any chance to look at these proposals yet, but they all respond to all of our questions, but they're very different. So I think it'll be an interesting opportunity. So we're going to try and spend some time getting our questions together on those and choosing a consultant to move forward. So we did ask in the RFQ, and I think they've all responded to it in different ways, for people to look outside the box and look at some hybrid models or some unconventional models of how to achieve what we want to achieve. And it used to be that your 2 options were municipal library with the funding that goes with that, or library district, and there are lots of in-betweens now, and outside of the box options for libraries. So it's pretty exciting. We have that giant stack of data from the first consultants. Normally we'd have to update all of that since we took a break for COVID here, but the 2020 stats, even though I just did the state report, 2020 stats are not going to be compared to anything ever. So we will be looking, primarily at still comparing those 2019 data points, because the 2020 ones, they don't resemble anything. So, and we're hoping that we get out of this in enough time for 2021 stats to not look like 2020 stats. So I'm excited to move forward, and I think we have a good group that's going to be looking at these applications. So, do you have questions for me on this process?
Can I add my normal 1 or 2 questions?
Sure.
Or one's actually a comment, one's a question. I just thought it was really creative for the Friends group to come up with a consulting organization.
It's a big system, but it's really cool.
I mean, that's really
Yeah.
thinking outside of the box, and
Yeah, it is.
I mean, that supports their library and everything else.
Yes.
The outfit from Washington,
Yes.
how big are they? Is that a
She's
one
just
person?
that's one person. So she was with someone, she was a member of a larger firm when I worked with her called Burke Consulting. It's a very large consulting firm in the Chicago area, but she's since then struck out on her own. So, but she's done a lot of work in Colorado recently, I think mostly with the healthcare industry. So I was very specific in asking her about her workload and whether she could take this on. So.
Sure. That's all I got. Does anybody else have anything for Nancy? I'm sure there'll be a lot more discussed as we move down the road here.
I see Katie's hand.
Yeah, so I guess the goal is then to interview, you're hoping the week, next week or the following week, I guess?
Yeah, it looks like we'll be, Karen Roney is going to be part of the interviews, and she is going to be out of town and returning on April 6th. So we should be interviewing pretty much as soon as she gets back.
Okay, and then making a decision fairly quickly thereafter?
Yes.
Okay. Have the three candidates indicated how quickly they could start? Should they
most of them could, yes, they could start, they could all start pretty much immediately, and they all have a really detailed timeline that's included in their proposals of what would happen when.
That's it.
Good. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Nancy. Okay. The subcommittee report on guidelines for use of our 2 grant funds.
I've had 2 months to work on this, and I have not worked on it. I will do it before the end of the I'll do it before the next meeting. I have no excuses other than I've just been very busy. It's tax season at work, and so I do taxes all the time. So hopefully I will have something for the April meeting.
Are you okay with what you're being asked, or do you want to talk about it some more, or?
No, I mean, I'm supposed to, I had my notes somewhere amongst my 5,000 pieces of paper. I'm just supposed to come up with like a general, I don't even know where that note went, but outline of kind of how we want to operate going forward, right? For everyone to review.
In my mind, I had 2 issues. One was, how do we redefine the uses of the funds to make them more flexible and more meaningful for the library going forward? That was one. And the other one was, how do we as a board approach the recommending of this money in a fiscally responsible fashion? That was my takeaway. There, others may have other takeaways that they want to pass on to you as well.
Yeah, I had notes from our prior meeting. They are somewhere. I am not currently locating them, but they are somewhere. And they were fairly extensive. So I think those made sense to me when I had them. So I feel pretty good that I can do it. I just need to do it.
Okay. Well, you've got a track record of doing it, so we're not worried.
Sorry. It will get done for April.
Okay. With that, I think we covered the item C under the little library involvement by the Friends. Unless there's something else needs to be said on that, I'm ready to move on to new business. And the first item, I believe this is yours, Nancy, electronic participation policy.
I stuck it on there and because I remembered it from last month and then I promptly forgot to send it to you. But let me give you the gist of it and then we can approve it next month. But basically, it's to approve what we're already doing. So there's always been an electronic participation policy to my knowledge, but it's been expanded a bit to cover the current situation. So basically what we'll be putting on the agenda next month to approve is this policy. And for example, meetings can be held electronically or by phone or by other means of communication only when certain conditions are met. And the first one is the city manager determines that meeting in person is not practical or prudent because of a health pandemic or declaration of emergency affecting the city. So obviously the number one item is the one that is the most applicable and is the one that's been added. It specifies that all members of the board or commission can hear one another or otherwise communicate and can hear and read or discuss all testimony in a manner designed to provide maximum notice and participation, that members of the public can hear and read all discussion, that at least one member of the board or commission is present at the regular meeting location unless not feasible. You don't have to do that in case of a pandemic. If it wasn't a pandemic or emergency declaration, you would have to have at least one person at the library. So all votes would be conducted by roll call. Minutes of the meeting are taken and promptly recorded. Timely notice is given to the public. We have the same rules about that, except now we use a new system called PrimeGov through the city. So once again, the parts that have been added are the pandemic parts. If meeting in person is not practical or prudent due to a health pandemic or emergency affecting the city shall use best efforts to provide the public a reasonable opportunity to be heard electronically. And so that's why we do the work ahead of time and make sure that we set these meetings up with information on the agenda of who to contact so that people would be able to attend the meetings. So there is a signature spot arranging for electronic participation. So we'll have to, at some point, vote and sign on this. So I will remember to send it to you promptly before the next meeting, but it's basically to officially authorize what we're already doing, and we and all the other organizations in the city.
Does this affect how we communicate amongst ourselves between meetings?
No, it's that those rules are still the same. You still can't reply all and have discussions outside of your meeting. It doesn't matter if they're electronic or in person. So those rules are still the same. If you see something from me where I need a response from you, I will probably still be reminding you to not reply all, so we don't violate any open meetings regulations. So the rules on that don't change. This just allows us to hold a meeting electronically and has provisions for the public to participate as well. So we'll be voting on that at the next meeting.
Okay. Any other items under new business that anybody else wants to bring up? I don't see any hands up. Next meeting date would be April 26th. Mark that on your calendar. Any comments from the board on any other items? I see none. Councilman, you have anything additionally? Nope, I see none. Okay, with that, I move to adjourn at 7:49. All in favor? Very good.
Hey, just want to mention casually, this is not a part of the meeting, but if any of you as board members have a yen to stop by and see some of our construction project in progress, feel free to do so. I would be happy to give you a little tour.
That'd be great.
Monty, have you been in the building at all?
I have not.
Okay.
I have not. I'd love to go in. Will they give us helmets and stuff to wear?
You don't need a helmet because the repairs are underneath your feet. So
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So
All right. I got
you'd
you.
be okay.
All right.
You'd be okay without a helmet.
What
All
you-
right,
what you
that sounds
do
good.
need- what
I could
do
give you an
need-
extra mask. So
You do need to have Nancy meet you at the door
you do.
Okay.
because
All
her
right.
staff will not let you pass the tables out there.
They won't.
Gotcha.
Will not. They follow orders pretty well.
They're
Do we
pretty,
need
they're
a-
pretty
we need a
loyal.
mask,
Good,
right?
good.
They are.
No, I may take you up on that. I wouldn't mind, I
Okay,
wouldn't mind
yeah,
going in there.
if you want to go ahead and shoot me an email or call me, then I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, that sounds good. I'll do so.
Thanks,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Don.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you more about it later this week.
Bye.
Bye.